Jurnee, I actually saw this at AFI, and so I got to see the Q&A with you and Nick. And
Oh, wonderful.
it was amazing movie, and
Thank
it's so
you.
funny because you have a smaller role, but it is so impactful, and it really speaks volumes without saying a whole lot. I know you mentioned that originally it was written for a man. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Can you tell me more about how then that got changed to being not only a woman, but a Black woman at that?
Justin, our filmmaker, he sent the script to my reps and asked to have a meeting with me about it. And um, yeah, I mean, it was his brainchild to make this character me. And so, the first thing I did, honestly, when they sent me the script was I Googled black women in the FBI. Because I was like, it's honestly not something that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the FBI, right? And so I did some research and found that, a very sobering statistic was that the first black woman didn't serve as a special agent until the 1970s. And so that opened my world up with Carney and just understanding she's a lone wolf. you know um, she's out there on the hunt, and it's a very lonely occupation, and the job has become her whole life. And I interviewed a few former special agents, women of all kinds, particularly women of color, and that was a common thread of just how lonely it kind of could feel being the other, the only of your kind in the workplace. But also, it took an incredible amount of courage to hold up that space.
I wonder a lot about sometimes when you are a woman trying to navigate any type of power structure, especially one
Mm.
that is kind of male dominated, there is the idea of, can I do this and retain my femininity, retain kind of what it is to be a woman, or do I have to kind of assimilate to the
Mm.
status quo?
Mm.
For you, it felt like Carney was isolated, not necessarily lonely. She definitely was isolated. She was kind of, one of a kind. But I wonder, what did you kind of put into her dynamics or her backstory when fleshing her out in terms of how she worked with these different agents?
I think yes, I mean, I'm the kind of actor I like to know what kind of sheets she sleeps on, what she eats for breakfast. And one of the things that I was exploring is this idea of when you occupy a space and you are one of the only people that looks like you in those rooms, you got to be the best. And you have no tolerance for people who get to not be the best. So that level of impatience that Carney has sometimes with Husk, who was my mentor, who we have a weird power dynamic going, power struggle happening because he's now coming to me for help. He's coming to me in ways I used to come to him. And I enjoy that. I do not have a tolerance for him veering off course and following his instincts because I can't do that. Right? And so when I approach it and when I feel like I got to discipline him, it's not just because I care about him, his well being, or the mission. It's because I'm also envious of the fact that he has this freedom that I will never be able to afford to have. Right? And so I think some of those interpersonal relationships were informed by my research and interviewing some of the former special agents, how some of them decided to wear makeup. Some of them decided not to wear makeup because they didn't want the attention. How they always had to think about where their neckline was, where the gun was, what kind of holster. Was this gun made for a man's hand? I mean, these were conversations that really illuminated a lot of what my approach was with Carney.
Well, we have kind of the double intersectionality of it when we talk about being a woman, but then also being a Black woman in
Mm,
this film that is hunting down white supremacists,
mm,
And on
mm,
one hand, there is something that is kind of exhilarating to be like, okay, I get to take these people down, and that feels good. But on the other hand, it's like these people exist, and they exist in such a big way that they're wreaking havoc that it's going to come on me to take them down. Talk
Yeah.
to me about just kind of the pressures that that Joanne kind of feels, and then basically, was there anything that while you were in character that you learned about your character that maybe kind of surprised you?
Great questions. I mean, I don't know that I really look at it as pressure. I think the fabric of who I am as a woman, mostly because of who my mother is. I'm drawn to stories like this. If anyone watches my filmography, this film is not a surprise, right? I love history. And so it's not that I felt pressure, but there definitely were moments and conversations, things that were important to me. It was important to name it domestic terrorism. That was very, very important to me. And it was important for the Bureau, the characters in the Bureau, to name it domestic terrorism, because we underplay it so much, unfortunately, in society. No, these are acts of terrorism, and they're terrorizing our nation. They're acts of treason, right? And so I think it is liberating. I sit at the intersection of multiple identities, and walking into the bunker of Bob Matthews, and seeing the visuals of what would have existed when they replicate that. I mean, yeah, it activates my blood memory, but I think it's a privilege. It's my duty as an artist. It's what James Baldwin talks about, the integrity of an artist. If you don't cheat, if you don't lie, it's not only your glory or your responsibility, it's almost our only hope. I really do believe that artists are put here to illuminate a side of humanity that, we need to see.
Right. Well, I thought it was so beautifully done. You're absolutely fantastic. The movie was thrilling, and
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
didn't know much about it going in. And so going through the whole thing, I was just completely enthralled. And of course, ran straight to Wiki and was like, let me see what else I can learn.
That's such a great sign. That's such a great sign, because it's like, look, it's a thriller, action, adventure. But if you can walk away having questions, being stimulated, having curiosity and wanting to learn more, that's the best compliment you could give us, really.
Well, thank you so much for taking a little time to talk with me about it. And congratulations on the movie. I can't wait for more people to see it because it is truly impactful.
That means a lot coming from you. Really, I respect you so much. So thank you.